Hey everyone, my name is Gio and I'll be your instructor for today. First of all, I wanted to congratulate you for getting this far into the course. I genuinely hope that you learned a lot this far and that you're enjoying the lessons. Once again, if you have any questions, feel free to ask them down below and one of our wonderful instructors will be ready to assist you. Now, let's get on to today's lesson, the HTML final, what we will be making. This lesson is going to work a little differently than the rest. Today, you will take the role of a real web developer. You have been contacted by a restaurant who's looking to improve their ordering system, and you have been tasked to create an interactive hamburger order form. We're going to apply everything that you've learned so far in this course in today's lesson. So without further ado, let's get started planning our website. So before we start actually building our website, we have to first plan it out. Someone doesn't just build a home out of scratch. First, they come up with the design and then the ways to implement it. You can do this with a simple pen and paper or with a digital tool. So let's start structuring our website. First of all, our website needs a title, so I'll be adding one here. I'd also think it would be really cool to add a logo next to it, so I'm going to place it before the text itself. Next, let's go to the main section. I want there to be a place to put the name of the order, so I'm going to be putting an input element where a user can type out their name. It's important to already try and think what element you're going to use to make the process of building it easier later on. Next, I think it would be really cool to be able to let the user decide what kind of bread they want to have. I'm going to do this by providing 3 numbered options for the user, and then allowing them to type the number they want in an input box. Below that, we'll allow the user to decide what kind of meat they want. Since I want to clearly emphasize which one they're selecting, as some people can't eat certain types of meat, I will be using radio buttons and making sure that all of them are visible at the same time. I'll be adding 4 radio buttons for beef, chicken, pork, and veggie. Luckily, the restaurant has plenty of toppings, and users will be able to pick more than one of them. So for that, we'll be using checkboxes. I'll be adding 8 toppings: lettuce, tomatoes, onion, pickles, cheese, bacon, avocado, and jalapenos. After building their burger, I'd like to have an additional information section where users can write specific comments or requests. And then finally, at the end of the form, users should be able to click submit. But also, if they decide to change their mind, they should also have an option to wipe everything clean. So now that we have our design in mind, we can go ahead and start actually building the app. This is where your challenge begins. Pause the video and try to complete this burger form by yourself. Remember, if you're ever stuck on anything, feel free to review past lessons or go and see the HTML documentations. There's plenty of sources online, such as the MDN Web Docs or W3 Schools, or via simple Google search. So pause the video and I'm wishing you the best of luck. Welcome back. I genuinely hope that you gave this challenge a shot. But if you're unsure of something or simply want to see how I would do it, then feel free to stick around. This is how I would personally go ahead and build the app. For our title, we're going to be using an H1 element. I'm going to be naming mine Gio's Burgers. Maybe a little egotistical, but remember that we want our logo next to it. So we're going to be doing that by adding an image tag. We do that by adding image, and inside adding the attribute source with an equal sign and then quotation marks. Here, Khan Academy will offer us to pick a file, and I'll go with this cute red leaf. We want the logo behind the text, but we see that if we put it after, then the image will inevitably be on the bottom. However, if we put it behind the H1, we see that it would go on top. So how do we fix that? We can wrap the image tag inside the actual title. We'll do that by copy and pasting the image and then placing it inside the H1 tag. As you can see, the image is now to the left of the text. The spacing might be a bit off, but that's simply because of the image margin. If we were to change the image, for example, you'd see how some are bigger than others. In a perfect world, the company itself would give us their own pictures that would fit our title, but we can settle for this. So let's finally separate our title from the rest of the website. To do that, I'll be adding a simple HR tag. Now let's go to the actual order page. Firstly, we need an actual name for the order. We can do that by creating an input with type text. And let's add a label before that so that the user actually knows what it is. To make the bread section, first we have to give the user all of the possible numbers that they can select. To do that, we can create an ordered list and list out the items. We're doing an ordered list instead of an unordered list because we want them to be numbered. So to make an ordered list, you simply write the OL tag. To make a list item, we'll be using the li tag or list item tag. Make sure that the list item is inside the ordered list tag. So let's add all the options. Now, we can simply use only one li tag, but it's always best to close it for best practice. Now that we have the list, we actually need to give the user a way to select their choice. For that, we're going to use an input with type number. This will automatically give us these two arrows that will let us select a number. However, there's a big problem. We only have a list from 1 to 3, but the input allows us to put any kind of number. We can fix that by using the min and max attributes. The min attribute lets us state the lowest possible number of the input. So in this case, 1. And then the max lets us state the highest number of this input, in this case 3. As you can see, our input automatically got smaller because our number is not going to exceed 1 digit. And if we try to go lower than 1 or higher than 3, you'll see that it won't let us do that. Now, let's add a label so that the user knows what they're actually doing. We could also give it a small title using an h3. But as you can see now, our code is starting to look very messy. For that, we can simply add comments. To make a comment, we're going to have to type a left bracket with an exclamation mark and 2 hyphens. As you can see, it'll turn green along with the rest of the text. This is because, like a tag, we have to close it. And to do that, we can simply do 2 hyphens and then a right bracket. And then inside, we can put our text. So title. Alternatively, you could also write out the text, select it, and then press Command/ or Control/. This will automatically comment the entire line for you. So let's go ahead and organize this. To further organize this, you'll see that we have a bunch of arrows on the side. These arrows connect to the open tags of elements. If a parent tag, as we call it, has other tags in it, then we call those other tags children. So we can close a parent tag and hide all of its children to better organize our code. So let's go ahead and do that with our h1 and with our ordered list. I'll be adding a space for legibility. And as we can see, this is already looking a lot more legible. Next up is the meat. So we'll be adding another title with meat using an h3 tag. Because this is probably one of the most important aspects of the burger, especially because some people are vegetarians or can't eat different types of food. So it's important that the user has a clear indicator of what they selected. However, this option is also mandatory, so the user has to select one. You know, restaurant policy. To be able to select only one option, we're going to be using radio buttons. The difference between radio buttons and a checkmark is that radio buttons, when grouped together, allow you to only select one option. To do that, let's create an input with the type radio. As you can see, a little circle will pop up in our preview window. If you click it, you cannot unclick it. But if we were to add other radio buttons, we can see that we can click each and every one of them. And that's not exactly what we want. So we have to group them together. And to do that, we're going to be adding the name attribute to each one of them. This will essentially be their group name. We'll give them the name meats. So add the attribute to all of the radio buttons. And then as you can see, you can only select one of them. Pretty cool, huh? Now we can simply just give them a label. If we add our label before the check marks, it might look a little inconsistent. So it's always best to add it after the button itself. There, that looks really cool. So I'm actually going to be wrapping this whole section with a div element. Remember, divs are almost like containers that we can use to organize our code. And that way, we'll be able to also hide the div entirely so that the code is much more legible. Thankfully, our restaurant has lots of toppings, and I'm sure their customers are really satisfied. However, how are we going to display them? Because we want the user to be able to click more than one of them, we're going to be using checkboxes. Let's make checkboxes with the input type checkbox. As you can see, a little square will pop up that you can select and unselect. Let's give it a little title right here. And now let's add all of our toppings. Remember, make sure to add the label after the button for better legibility. I'd like to have 4 of them in a line, so I'm going to be adding a line break using the BR tag on the 4th one. I feel like this is much more organized now. But as we can see, bacon, jalapenos, and avocados are all charged extra. I want to emphasize this. So to do that, I'm going to be adding a strong tag inside the label. The strong tag will make the part that is wrapped around bolded. So let's do that for the other 2. Here we go. Now the user is freely able to select whichever toppings they want. Again, I'm going to be wrapping this section in a div element for better organization. And of course, let's add a comment so that we can find it later. At the end of our order form, I'd like to add a section with special instructions, questions, or specifications. I'm going to start by adding a title once again, but this time on H2, because it's not part of the actual ordering process. And then I'm going to give it a brief description with a P tag, which is the paragraph element. Because I'd like to include some allergy information in the description, I'm going to wrap the word allergy around an A tag, giving us a hyperlink. To redirect the user to the website we want, we simply add the href attribute, and inside we'll put the URL of that website. As you can see, this one will bring the user to the Mayo Clinic food allergy information page. I'll also be adding a BR tag right above our title, just to make the spacing a little better. Now for the actual writing area. For that, we're going to be using, instead of input type text, input type text area. Now, Khan Academy works a bit different, but normally this would give us an expanded input box where the user could write a lot of text. We can also add the placeholder attribute, which will allow us to put some placeholder text inside the input, describing what the user should type. Once again, I'm going to wrap it in a div, and then hide it. Let's add our comment. And lastly, we're going to be adding buttons for submitting your order and resetting the form. Let's add another HR tag to make it a little more organized. I'll add another BR above that just to make the spacing a little better. For the order button, which in our case would be a simple submit button, we'll use the input type submit. As you can see, a button with the word submit query will appear. Normally, when you submit a form, you'd be able to utilize the data and actually work with it. But that's a little too complex for us right now. Do not click this button unless you have saved your code. So to do that, press Command or Control A, and then Command or Control C, and paste it in a blank document. As you can see, when we press submit in Khan Academy, nothing will happen yet. This is because we haven't actually done a form. To make a complete form, we have to wrap everything with the form tag. So if we put an open form tag at the start and then one right after submit, when we submit the query, our page would turn blank. And the only way to fix it is to refresh the page. But that will delete all our code with it. So make sure you have a backup. But I don't like that it says submit query. That's not very user-friendly when someone's ordering. So we can fix that by using the value attribute and adding whatever text we want. I'm going to add order. However, what if the user changes his mind right at the very end? Would he really have to go through and unselect every single option? The answer is no. We can use the input type reset. This will give us another button that, when clicked, will reset our entire form. So as you can see, I filled out this form, but I realized that I'm actually in the mood for pizza. Instead of having to click everything away, we can simply click the reset button and boom, our entire form is reset. How cool is that? One last touch is to add the title or to change the title of your website. To do that, we can change the title element found in the head section of your website. Let's title it Gio's Burgers. As you can see, the main title will also change. And there you have it. You've now made your very own hamburger order form. Once again, congratulations for making it through the first part of the course. We are all extremely proud of you and your hard work. Make sure to share your creation to our Facebook group. The link is on the lesson page. I would love to see what you were able to come up with and how your own order form looks like. I cannot wait to see you in the next lesson, where we're going to learn the foundations of cascading style sheets, CSS. And with that, I'll be seeing you. Bye bye.